I'll tell you later. Oh, wait, you lost your magnet.
Magnet down.
Hang it down.
Hang it down.
We have it though. Okay. Oh, and maybe it's this little bonus too. Okay, thank you all for coming out to Cindy's workshop tonight. We're so excited to have Peng Shepherd here to celebrate her book, All This and More, a follow-up to the incredible novel The Cartographers. I love and I highly recommend. In conversation with her tonight, we have Jordy, who is well known to everyone, I'm sure. We love having him as a conversation partner, and he runs a very popular bookstagram called Jordy's Book. The way it's going to work tonight is about 30 minutes of conversation, and then we'll have about 15 minutes for Q&A and about 15 minutes for signing. And that's all for me. Thank you. Take it away.
It's up to us.
Up to us. Yep.
Hi, everyone. This is a good turnout. I've done a few of these here, and this is a great turnout. So thanks for coming tonight. Peng, congratulations. Happy
Thank you.
First week. First week?
Pub
month?
Pub month. There you go.
How does it feel that the book is officially out of your hands, out in the world? Readers are buying it?
Yeah.
How does it feel?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah, it feels good. Yeah. I mean, you kind of got to pry it out of our hands, you know? It never feels done. It never feels ready. And so when they finally do, it's a lot of terror, but a lot of relief.
Yeah.
Also. Yeah.
So for people who haven't picked up a copy of the book or read the book yet, could you give all of us, in your own words, a synopsis of what All This and More is about?
Yes. It is about a woman who is a little bit of all of us to some degree, I think, which is to say she's got some regrets in life. And she wins the chance to go back in time and fix every mistake she's ever made, you know, in order to create this life that she's always dreamed of. But nothing's ever that simple. Every choice we make has consequences. And so as things start to go wrong in this perfectly crafted future that she's made, she's got to figure out just how far she'll go to keep this happiness that she's made or maybe lose it all.
So it's kind of like a sliding doors-esque concept, but you kind of flip it on its head. And for those who don't know, the book has a really fun narrative device, which is it's basically an adult choose your own adventure, which means at very specific points in the book, as a reader, you get to decide whether to turn the page or go to another section. So can you talk a little bit about your inspiration for deciding to use a choose your own adventure type narrative device?
Yes. So we all know what we're talking about, right? Those children's choose your own adventure books where did anyone read those as kids?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And we all loved them, right? Okay. So I had been wanting to write a book that had a structure that had multiple paths in it, kind of like that for years and years, but I wanted to write it for adults. And I knew that the premise was going to be really important because I've got a theory about why those kids' books were so popular when we were little, and then you don't see very many of them when they're adults because it's much harder to pull off for adults. And my theory is that when you are a kid, you basically have no choice, right? You know, everything in your life is dictated by your parents or your teachers or some other, you know, adult authority figure. And so anytime you get to exercise any kind of authority, no matter how small or random, like in a kid's choose your own adventure book, it's just really thrilling. And so those kids' books are geared toward giving you as many choices as possible, as quickly as possible. So you start that book, you're just you know, on page 1, blank slate, slot yourself in, there's no character development. And then by page 3, you're on a pirate ship or you're saving your middle school from zombies or in outer space. And it's just really fun and exciting. And that is exactly what you want at that age. And then we all grow up and we have entirely too many choices, right? And none of them are as fun as being on a pirate ship or saving your middle school, right? It's like taxes.
You want to pay your bills.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it's a much harder, it's like a bigger ask to ask an adult reader to read something where they've got to make choices to move the story forward, because choice in and of itself isn't like a novel concept to any of us anymore. And so I knew that when I started writing this, it had to be, I could not just build that structure just to have it as a gimmick. There had to be a reason that I was asking you to make choices and to do a little bit of extra work when you read it. And then when I came up with this idea that is about a woman who has regrets in her life, like we all do. And then she gets the chance to go back and change things. And she's trying to decide, what do I want to give up? What do I want to keep? What is important to me? By asking you, because you're not just reading her making those decisions, you are actually making them with her. You are helping her figure out what to choose. And so my hope is that it makes the story like even deeper for you, because in order to keep reading, you have to answer that question kind of for yourself a little bit. Like, what is important to you in your own life? And you have to make a value call to keep going in the story.
So I like those books as a kid because if you pick the right journey, you could skip half the book and still count it towards your personal pan pizza reading goal.
Yeah.
If readers choose a specific journey in this book, are they still going to end up reading the entire book? Does everyone read the same entire book, just in a different order? Or is there a possibility where people are reading only part of the book and kind of ending at a certain point?
Yes. So well, first of all, I should say, if you start this book, you will never die on page 4 or something. That will not happen to you, because can you imagine asking an adult reader? They just be like, and I'm done.
Acknowledgements are 20 times in the book.
I know.
Skip to acknowledgements.
Yeah. So if you start this book, there are, I think there's 3 to 5, maybe 3 main paths that you can get. And if you start the book, you will find one of those 3 paths and continue on. And each path is about, you'll get 80% of the book.
Yeah.
So it'll be like a typical 350-page story. And even if you only read it once, you're going to get, about 80% of the book. It will be a full story and complete.
Will readers have different reading experiences with it, or will they all basically come away with kind of the same ending to the book?
No. So there are 3 endings, 3 possible endings, and you can have different experiences. It's been really fun because my publisher released the book to a couple of book clubs early, and they got to read it, and then I would Zoom with them afterwards, and it was so fun to hear them talk because they were all reading it at the same time. And it's the same story in that it's always about Marsh, the woman that is changing her life, but depending on what some of them chose, they all got a slightly different experience. And then when they got to the 3 endings, they did not all choose the same ending, and it was really fun.
That's really interesting. I didn't
talk
realize
about it with a friend. Yeah.
And you get people to read it 3 times. So besides the choose your own adventure element to it, it also seems like you have a lot of fun with pop culture-y elements to it. The book kind of reads very Bachelor coded to me and kind of plays with reality tropes. So are you a fan of reality TV? What kind of research goes into kind of this kind of book for you?
Yeah. So I did start watching more reality TV when I started writing it. And I did watch, my favorite ones are ones like that, where there's some kind of weird, it's about relationships, usually a romantic relationship, but obviously the setups for all of those are just so weird. So I watched the one where they're getting married, but the first time they're seeing each other is at the altar 15 minutes before they say I do. Or the one where they get to know each other, but they can't see each other. And then in order to meet, they have to propose to each other. And then finally they get to see each other. And
the chaos ones.
Yeah. So addictive though, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we met and started talking after the Book of M.
The Book of M, yeah.
Which is still one of my favorite books of all time. And is a lot darker and a lot more serious and still it's just a different tone than this book. And so is The Cartographers. And this one feels a lot lighter and more fun and escapist. Can you talk a little bit about the tone of the book and what kind of, was it a different experience for you? Was it more fun to write this one? Because it feels like you're having a lot of fun with this book and you can kind of see it on the page.
Yeah, I really did have a lot of fun. I mean, it was so complicated and it was so chaotic because there's multiple versions of this woman's life that they all have to make sense, whether you're going forwards, backwards, or jumping. So they all have to make sense and they all have to be equally true and meaningful. So it was a challenge to write it, but it was just so fun. I think because it's set in a game show that lets you change anything you want about your life. It just was, I mean, that would be really zany, right? Yeah. And then the way that any television series works, the first couple episodes feel pretty grounded, and then the longer and later into the season you get, the weirder things get, and the more extreme and the more outlandish, because that's how television series work. And then you get to the finale, and it's just you know, explosions everywhere. And so that happens to Marsh as she goes. And I mean, The Cartographers was it was so research based,
Yeah.
because it is based on a real map, and the secret that is on the map is like from history. And so it was just, I think it was just really freeing to write something that, where everything was coming out of my imagination.
Is there a specific ending that you like more than the other of the three?
I love them. No, I can honestly say I love them all. They were all so fun to write.
Yeah.
They're all a little dark. There's no like perfectly happy ending to this one, but I know the one that I think, if I were the person in the bubble, if I were Marsh and I had come to these three endings, I know the one that's the most true for me.
Yeah.
But what has been interesting when I zoomed with a lot of those book clubs, it tends to not be the ones that other people choose.
Huh.
Yeah, which is interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
So I got sent a really early copy of the book,
Mhm.
and the numbers were off a little bit. And I remember I
Yes.
started reading it, and the publisher called and was like, "Stop what you're doing. Like, don't read this." So
Yeah.
clearly, like, that was a really tough thing to execute. So what
Yeah.
goes in? Can you talk a little bit about what goes into the structure of putting a book like this together and making sure that the puzzle pieces kind of all fit together and interconnect at the end of the day?
Yeah. Well, I think there's two sides to it. There's the writing side, which I did,
Yeah.
and then there's the production side, which is, that's different, because once you deliver the book to them, then they have to make all the
Right.
numbers work or not. But eventually we did.
They got it to me fast, by the way, too.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
fixed it.
It was just like widespread panic
Yeah.
when we realized that was, what happened actually? The bindery. So it was correct when we sent the bindery, the file, and they added the typical 3 pages into the front. So everything was off by only 3 pages. But if you were getting it fresh, so you didn't know it was only 3 pages. It was just, you turned to the page it said, and it was not it. And so
I was like, I'm in the Himalayas right now. Like, what's
I know.
happening?
I know.
I wanted to see the threesome.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was like panic, but it's all right in the end.
Did you write it like the story linearly, or like did you write like big pieces of it like linearly and then start to mix it up? Like, did you have like a whiteboard with all the red strings, like Homeland style, connecting it?
No, I wish that I had. So when I gave it to my editor, I did give her a flow chart that went with it, because I didn't want her to just like jump off the roof of the publishing house when she received this manuscript. But when I was writing it, I actually did not have an outline, because I thought, and I wrote all the paths simultaneously. So everything kind of moved, all of the versions of it moved till we got to the end. And I think that was probably harder.
Yeah.
It was a harder way to do it. But I had thought that if I drew an outline early on to sort of map out all the ways she could go, that it might, because it's about a woman and multiple versions of her life, right? And so each one of those versions has to feel just as true.
Yeah.
Because no matter whichever one you're choosing, I want it to feel like the right one, because it is the right one for you. And so I just thought, if I can keep it all in my head, it has to be like true to the character, right?
I think you also do a really nice job of threading the needle with a complex character, in the sense that Marsh makes decisions that will impact her husband and her daughter in very big ways. And I think you could easily have steered it away where you make her an unlikable character that readers don't root for, because she chooses things like her career all of a sudden, where her daughter is that her daughter's life changes, or her husband's life changes. And so how did you balance those character stories while also trying to keep the essence of the book and the kind of choose your own adventure nature of it? Because I thought you did a really nice job with that.
Well, thank you. I would say I don't know if Marsh totally achieves that, right?
Yeah.
Because in the beginning of the story, so the way that this works is she's chosen to go on this game show. She's pulled into the bubble where, reality will bend around the choices that she wants, and into the bubble come with her loved ones, because in our real lives, anytime you make a major life choice, it's going to affect the people that you care about, right? If you want to like move out of state, your partner or your children, or that's going to change their lives too. So they go in with her, and they don't remember anything, so that sanity is preserved, I guess, every time reality changes. And so at the beginning of the novel, Marsh says that she's only going to make choices that make not just her life better, but Harper's life better, her daughter, or that don't hurt Dylan, who's her ex-husband. And that seems good at first, right? Like, and that is I think the best you could do if you were in that situation. But the fact of the matter is, it's still Marsh choosing what happens to Harper.
Right.
It's not Harper choosing. And So who is to say that it's actually making her life better? And then as the choices get more and more extreme and like more and more things start to go wrong, I think that question that Marcia's asking herself, I don't necessarily know if you're entirely a good guy at that point.
The question
even
of
if you want to
agency.
be. Yeah.
It's an interesting one you pose, and I think it's complicated, but I think it's something that adds a layer of specificity to the book itself too, which I think could end up being something that feels a little bit light and frivolous. And I feel like you actually ask some complex things. With Book of M and the Cartographers, and now this, you obviously have a penchant for playing with magical realism and mythology and world building in really cool and interesting ways. Talk to us a little bit about what goes on in your brain. Like, do you have a notebook of like just really wild ideas that you're starting to implement? Because like this is the third really cool book that feels like a very high concept swing for the fences.
I don't know. I don't know. I just think I like weird stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't know how to answer it, because every time I get asked that question, I really do just feel like the book chooses you. Kinda. And sometimes I worry that, with the Book of M, especially, it was like people's shadows are disappearing and they're losing their memories and they're doing magic. And like,
the deer have butterfly wings on their head.
Like, I was like, is anyone going to like this? Is just too weird. And so, I don't know. But I felt that I could not stop writing that one. So
do you watch a lot of like TV and films, and do you digest a lot of books in like the similar genres? Like, yeah.
I mean, I love that. Yeah. I'm so excited for Severance. They just announced, coming back in January. Yeah. I love that one. Yeah.
Okay. So, changing your past is obviously a big part of the book. And, what it feels like that's something that resonates with readers a lot. The idea of being able to change something or go back in time, whether it's like reliving high school or another moment in your life. Why do you think it is that that kind of idea resonates so much with readers and seems to percolate a lot?
I mean, who doesn't wonder about the paths not taken, right? I mean, even if you are happy, it's still just so hard not to wonder, because every time you do make a choice in your life, that means that something else could have happened. And it's just, I mean, that is what makes life special, is that there's only one playthrough. You only get to do everything once. And it's like the best thing about life, that you have to make these hard choices, because it makes that life, uniquely yours. But it's also the hardest thing about life, because you have to make these hard choices and you might get it wrong.
Without going into spoilers, what was your favorite path of hers that you got to write?
So I like the paths as it gets later into the book, where finally Marsh realizes that something is going wrong.
Yeah.
Like, because in the beginning of the book, I mean, at first everything just seems perfect, right? And then there are like little things that start happening when she makes choices that she does not notice at first, but I think that you will start to notice, because you are seeing it from the outside. And I think that for a couple of chapters, you realize that something's off before she does. And so when she finally catches up to you and is starting to realize all the things that you have been seeing, that was when it got really, really fun to write.
That's fun.
Yeah. The dread,
Yeah. There's also a really fun kind of Greek chorus element to the book with the Marsh can see, right,
like a chat roll.
Like a chat roll of people who are commenting as she's actually living the show, almost like the people who live blog like Big Brother all day. And like, you can watch that. Yeah. Where did the idea come to infuse that, and tell us a little bit about doing that kind of piece of it?
Oh, it was so fun. So because it's a TV show, there are other viewers with you who are watching it and commenting on the same stuff. And I ended up putting it in because I felt like you're a reader of the book, but you're also kind of a viewer. That's sort of it feels like you are watching the show as one of the, the millions of people around the world that are obsessed with all this and more of the show. And I really also wanted to give you some kind of way to, because the chat roll also starts to notice that things are going wrong, or they'll
out
disagree.
Easter eggs a little bit. Sometimes.
Or some of them like her choices, some of them don't like her choices, some of them think it's unrealistic, some of them think it's like the best thing they've ever. And so I wanted to give you kind of some people to be in dialogue with, because sometimes you might like her choices, sometimes you wouldn't, but that's how. I mean, the book is so interactive in structure that it felt like they felt like characters that needed to be there too. Yeah.
It's fun. Like they were like my favorite character.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit. I'm always curious because I love the cover for this one. What goes on in the process of picking a cover? Like what went on in the process of picking this cover?
We did so many redesigns. We were super late. We were at the point where, because I think
I did the cover reveal.
There was no, you did the cover reveal. Yeah. We were to the point where the advanced review copies had to go out, and my publicist was like, I will not send this out without a cover. And my editor's like, it has to go out. And but we I don't, it's kind of, it's not unlike writing the book itself. You get a draft of something and it's like surprising and interesting, but usually not right. Without spoiling anything. Well, I mean, you just won't know what I'm talking about. The first cover had all butterflies on it. Yeah, because of the thing.
Yeah.
And but it doesn't make any sense to you, right? Like you know the premise, but you don't know anything else. And if there were butterflies on the cover, you would have no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
And so we went around and around a couple times until we finally thought, why don't we do doors with? And a lot of the pictures in the doors are all things that happen in various paths, and that was really fun because we got to figure out, you know, what moments from the book, and you know whether or not you'll see them all when you read.
So I always like to ask this because we're in Hollywood. There's a lot of talk always about TV and film adaptations. Is this one that you would like to see adapted? And if so, is there anything that you can share about a potential adaptation?
Yeah. I would love to see it adapted.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't think I can say much about it. It hasn't been announced. It has not been announced yet, but there are some really, really cool people involved, and I'm super excited. And
people in Hollywood like it.
Good things are happening.
When you write books, are you thinking about them as potentially being adapted? Does that infiltrate your writing process at all? Being like, I want this to be a big book, but I also want this to potentially be a TV or film.
No, and I mean nowadays you kind of wonder about it because the Book of M was optioned when it came out, and so was the Cartographers, and so now it was something that kind of occurred to me as I was writing this, but it's such a different medium, you know, and there are some writers that also write screenplays and stuff. I don't. I only write novels, and so I just think I would drive myself crazy if I thought about it like that, because
like what you should be writing towards.
Because I would have absolutely no idea. So I just you know, I can only do the book.
You write the book, and then
and then if they like it, they like it. If they don't, that's okay. You know?
All right. Well, last question for me before I open up to Q&A. I always like to ask for it. Is there anything that you've read this year that you've really loved and recommend, or for people who finished this book and are looking for something similar, anything that you would recommend?
That's a great
question. On the spot.
I know. Okay. What have I read lately? I just read, this comes out next month, I think in August. It's called Hum by Helen Phillips. She's wonderful. Everything she writes is just like so creepy. It's like so creepy. She's so good at it. So that was a favorite. I just finished Time's Mouth it's somewhere right here by Eden Lapuki. That was great.
It's hiding behind your.
It's somewhere. Yeah. I saw it earlier when I was in here. Yeah.
You're reading God of the Woods right now.
Oh yeah. I'm about 20%. I'm about 20% through that. It's just started to get like, ugh.
God of the Woods. Yeah. It's over there.
It's about a kid that goes missing at a summer camp, like a summer camp out in the woods. Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Very good. Yeah.
And if you haven't read the Book of M or the Cartographers yet, highly recommend those as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, should we open it up and see if anyone has questions?
Questions?
Can you read the book more than once and see what the other endings are?
Yes, you can. Yeah. Yeah. You'll repeat some of it, you know, because some of the paths all come together at some points, but you can reread it.
Is the ending like in the middle of the book, or is the ending at the end of the book?
The ending is.
Is that a weird question?
No, it's not a weird question. No, not for this book. It's not a weird question. So the way that the book is structured is that when I first wrote it, you had to jump all the time. Every time you came to a choice point, I had made you jump. And my editor said, what if we just do it a different way? So the way that it is now, when you start the book, everyone starts in the same place and you read, and then you hit the first choice and you can start jumping from there, or you can just keep going because one of the paths is in a line. So if you don't know what to choose, or you feel like the structure's too much, you can read all the way through. And so I say that the option to come to the endings is like, it's about like page 350 or 360.
Like you can read the 3 endings back to back to back, or do you have to like go and redo it?
Almost. You could stick your finger in the page where the choices for the endings are.
Got it.
And just save that. Yeah, you could do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Not like any of us did that with the kids' books, right?
No.
We definitely did not cheat like
Then
that.
definitely need to go back to the Encyclopedia Brown and look at it really quickly to see what the ending was. Who else?
Hey, I have a question. It's kind of similar to the cover. Are the deckled edges your choice, or because I feel like they've been in all your books?
They have. No, it's
I love a deckled edge.
I love them too. It is something that my editor decided for the first one, and I felt very like fancy and special. And then she's just kept doing it for all of them. So yeah, she's great. I love her. Yeah.
So you said that your editor offered up some suggestions and changes.
Mm-hmm.
As editors do, how hard is that to release your ego and the investment in your name?
Yeah.
With somebody else's input.
Yeah. I'm very lucky in that she's an amazing editor, and this was our 3rd book together, and we actually just signed 2 more books together. So I have 2 more books with her. So we've been working together since the beginning, and I trust her so much. And I mean, almost always when she says that something's like off or something's not clear, something needs more, is there another way? She's really almost always right, So she doesn't necessarily always say what it should be, but she'll call out an area that needs something. And she's always right. And then we come up with a solution together. And we work well together. Yeah.
Yeah. I have 2 kids in their 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And their dad and I read to them all the time. Back until my son was 12, I think.
Aw.
Never have I heard of a book like this. Get to choose an ending. So maybe it came out when they stopped reading.
Something, yeah.
Them, I guess. So I'm so curious about that format.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to reading it because I can't quite picture it. And the second thing is, how did you pick the character's name?
Oh, Marsh. So Marsh is not actually her name. It's her nickname. It's short for Marshmallow because she's just a big softie. Yeah. And so it's her nickname. Yeah.
Yeah.
They say in Choose Your Own Adventures, I just remember turning the page, and if there's only 2 paragraphs of blank, yes.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you about book of that.
Yeah.
Without running anything, there's a big lead up to a pretty significant twist.
Yeah.
Which,
Yes.
with perspective, like it's cool or heartbreaking. When you write something like that,
Yeah.
how much do you think this is the right choice versus I wish this didn't happen? Or how do you decide, where to go with it? And is your instinct to go like, no, I'm going to turn this on its head a little bit?
Yeah. So it was interesting with the Book of M because that ending
was cool and heartbreaking.
It was
by the way.
I get a lot of messages in my, people just saying like, I cried. So
I love this so
everyone's crying. I've had videos of readers sending me videos of themselves crying as they finished it. I'm like, sorry, not sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But with that ending specifically, it's funny to say because I don't outline my books, and I usually don't know what's going to happen in them until I start writing, until I get there in the writing process. But for some reason with the Book of M, I knew the ending like before I knew anything else, and so I was writing toward it the whole time without knowing how I was going to get there, but just that I had to get there. And I felt, even though it is intense and maybe not what people are expecting, I just felt so strongly about it that I just like could not consider it. And nothing else felt true. It just felt like that was the only way it could be. And I had to respect that, even though it's a complicated, conclusion. Yeah. Yeah.
So the Book of M is my favorite book of all time.
Thank
I've
you.
had many hours long discussions with my mother and debates about it. And I just wanted to ask you, these books that you write have so many philosophical, physical, metaphysical, intense topics about life that have so many open-ended perspectives about people. How do you write? How do you find what to write, what to say about these different topics like identity or regret in life?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I don't think that I have the answers when I'm writing it for sure, but the process of writing a book for me is about like finding those questions and then asking the questions. And I just try to see where the characters go without forcing them. Because I think if I force them to act out an answer for you, it would feel, like not authentic. And I think that's kind of how you end up with an ending like Book of M, because it's probably not what people are expecting, but it just felt like, I don't know, like a true way that question could end, And I don't know. It's really just about, I guess, just, like finding the question. Yeah.
When I see the cover for this one, I read the cartographers, and I'm remembering that cover too, and I feel like they have similar color schemes. So I'm just wondering if that at all played into your choice for this book's cover.
I guess maybe the first version, because this is a little more purpley, it's like purple and gold. The first version, it actually was blue and orange. And I think at that point it came out and it looked really cool and it was kind of zany and like it looked a little more science fictional, but it came out and then we all realized what we had done. And then we were like, okay, wait, maybe we need other colors. Yeah.
You changed my scheme up a little
I know,
bit.
we did. Yeah, we didn't realize
Look
it.
at them.
We were just like,
blue.
it's blue. It's like blue and black
I have
and
the
white.
blue and pink one.
Oh yeah, the UK cover.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we thought blue was cool, and then we were like, what goes with blue? Oh, orange contrasts great. Yes, it does, because we already did it.
Agreed. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Great. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Peng's gonna stick around and sign some books.
Yeah.
Thanks
you
everyone
so
for
much.
coming. Hope you love the book, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. I have all my cool chart. Oh yeah, she's gonna bring my bag. Yay.